I
We'll
don't
be
know if
starting.
mine's. There we go.
All right. I will be starting the recording now. All right, let's start off with the first question. What sort of business do you run?
So I run what's called a CNC machine shop. We are basically manufacturing as a service,
Mhm.
where people have designs and blueprints and 3D models for parts they need made, and we build it. A lot of it's aimed at a lot of it. The industry in my area in particular is generally aerospace, defense work, and medical as well.
Oh, interesting. As an entrepreneur, how is the work-life balance?
Uh, it's easy to get sucked in, especially machining, even not as an entrepreneur. If you're a good worker with a larger company or a medium-sized company, it's very easy to get heavily involved and crank out the overtime hours. And but I try and be real adamant that I'm only work kind of set hours a week or take certain times off, kind of
Mhm.
thing.
On a typical day, what do you usually do?
uh Most of my day is right now, because I'm still pretty early on, is hunting down work and actually being physically on the machine and cutting metal.
Is it difficult to maintain your machine shop?
uh Not at this point. It's still fairly small, but as it gets bigger, because I've managed other shops before,
Oh,
uh it's kind of balancing working with everybody. It's very easy to become the company to become dependent on you specifically.
mhm.
A lot of machine shops become very person specific dependent, where that one person juggles customers, juggles employees, juggles vendors. I'm trying to make sure that my company is structured in a way where it's not that dependent.
Oh, what made you want to open your own business?
So I actually grew up in my dad's machine shop. My dad was a mechanical engineer, and he started a business when I was about 6 years old, and he sold it about 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Uh, so growing up in his shop and working for other businesses has just kind of been the direction I've been in as long as I can remember.
Nice, nice. What do you think would make someone a good fit to be an entrepreneur?
To make someone a good fit to be an entrepreneur, biggest thing to me is problem solving skills. The ability to get something done, even if not all the proper tools are available. I always like to say I'm good at getting stuff done with all the wrong tools. Uh, so basically, just kind of seeing a problem, being able to recognize, break it down to its most just basic things that need to happen. Like if you have a car problem, it's air, gas, or oil or something like that. It's basically just then itemize the problem and
Mhm.
recognize it that way and find a way to work around it.
Besides problem solving, do you think there are any other good skills that an entrepreneur should have?
Uh, Besides just problem solving, I'd say drive. There's going to be lots of ups and downs. You're going to get knocked back. I mean, I've tried to get my own company. I've been trying for about 5 or 6 years now,
Wow.
before it finally actually got off the ground, because the industry I'm in is very capital heavy to start.
Mhm.
A lot of upfront investing. But I've been working on it for about 5 or 6 years, about 4 or 5 attempts that have all got knocked to the wayside one way or another. But I finally got a way that's taking off now.
That's impressive. Wow, 5 years. I can't imagine. That's some grit right there. Um, do you need a degree to be an entrepreneur?
No, I'd say I think I went to college for maybe a year and a half, and I think I spent a lot of that time napping in the parking lot because I was working night shift. Uh, so yeah, most guys and my dad happened to have a mechanical engineering degree when he started his business,
Mhm.
but he ended up not really using it that much. So yeah, especially in manufacturing, any aspect of manufacturing, a college degree is by no means a necessity. Most machine shop owners in my area have no college.
Oh, how has being an entrepreneur changed you as a person?
Uh, I don't know if it's really changed me that much. Now that I've finally gotten to where what I've been striving for is taking off, I feel a little extra driven than I have been in the past.
Mhm,
Uh, Kind of finally starting to see the fruition of all the effort I've been putting in.
mhm.
But otherwise, I mean, yeah, I've always kind of had a knack for trying to really good at making money on the side, some way, shape, or form.
Nice. Are there any regrets that you have as being an entrepreneur, or do you think there are any downsides to owning your own shop?
uh, Not at this point. I think having a really big understanding of the stress and the time involved uh, up front before you really dive into it, understanding that you're going to end up dedicating a lot of time to this. Because let's say my dad started his own business, and in the end, that business is really what kind of caused him and my mom to divorce as well.
Mhm,
Is just from the stress because it wasn't well planned, it wasn't as coordinated as it was a successful business.
mhm,
Uh, it got bought by one of its customers a few years ago, but it was doing 5 million revenue a year at the time. But acknowledging the challenges and the time and the stress up front is going to be the biggest thing for anyone wanting to try and start their own business, come up with an idea. Is just making sure it's not just the fun part you like. It's not just coming up with that idea and oh cool, I can make this and do that and do this. It's understanding all those details, all the other things you have to chase. I mean, before I even had my machine, I had a website, I had a business plan, I had everything locked down. I talked with my wife
mhm,
about my time dedication that I'm going to have throughout the week,
mhm.
everything like that. It's just understanding that is the biggest thing to me.
Right. So, like, what I'm hearing is a lot of pre-planning before you decide to open that shop.
Yeah, but I say a lot of people like to dive into it. Just I have a great
Mhm.
idea. Let me find a way to make it happen. But it's good to make it's good to make it happen, but it's good to plan too. Don't get caught in like analysis paralysis or anything like that. But make sure you have a roadmap. I'd say a lot of people skip it. A lot of people say you can skip it, but I highly advise having some kind of business plan.
Sounds good. If I'm interested in opening a business, how should I start?
Depending on the type of business, let's say for a machine shop,
Mhm,
working in the industry in some way, shape, or form is significant. It's hard to get into it from scratch.
mhm,
A friend of mine bought a company in a related field not too long ago, and he's been struggling for about 6 months to a year now, trying to figure out the technical parts of it.
mhm,
But most guys that I know that own machine shops have had worked in them for 5 to 10 years prior.
mhm,
Uh, Getting the because that helps not just learning the industry, learning the skills, learning your area because a lot of this kind of stuff is local.
mhm,
Uh, but it also helps network connections.
mhm,
Uh, no matter where I've for the last 5 or 6 years, no matter what company I work for, and now my own business, I've had customers follow me because I worked for other people. I built that connection to where they'd call me directly for things,
mhm,
or even other machine shops that I've worked for. Let's say are friendly enough to pass work around,
mhm,
kind of thing. But it helps not just for learning, but for networking is a big thing.
mhm. Uh, Earlier, I think you mentioned that when you were opening your business, you had to gain a lot of, or you had to gather a lot of capital. How did you go about getting all the capital?
For me, it worked out that I had sold my house last year.
Mhm.
Uh, and I was able to use some of that money to as a down payment off because I bought a $30,000 machine.
Um,
Uh, and I'm doing payments on it, but I was able to get a good chunk of a down payment and prove that I had money in the bank and things. But yeah, generally, as much as I hate to say it, having a good credit score helps.
mhm.
When I was 18, 19, 20, I let it bombed out, and I spent the last 5 or 6 years trying to pull it back.
Um, any other pieces of advice you'd like to share for any aspiring entrepreneurs?
Uh, Best advice I can give is probably the same advice that my dad likes to give. He always says there's no magic in the world. Uh, if you're wanting something to happen, then you have to take the actions to make it happen. You can't just put something out there and expect everything to fall just in the right place. You're the one that has to take each step.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. Definitely agree. Well, that's all the questions that I had for this interview, Jesse. I just want to thank you once again for taking your time to be a part of this interview. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to put this interview up on the website. I'm sure a lot of people will be very interested as to how opening or owning their own shop works.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you need anything else, just let me know.
All right. Thank you, Jesse. Have a good day.
You too. Bye bye.